Alright, what's up guys? This is going to be a updated guide video, I guess, because my last guide video was what, like 2 weeks ago or like a week and a half ago or something. Updated, it was 12 days ago. And as funny as it sounds, a lot has changed in those 12 days. Fighter used to be very good. Now, not so much. The class probably one of the worst in the game. If you don't count Warlock, it's definitely one of the bottom classes, down there with like Rogue. And is that because Fighter as a character is bad? Not really. The biggest issue with Fighter right now is that the classes that are OP are the classes that counter it. Wizard, Cleric, even Ranger, which is the class Fighter's supposed to counter, has really good ways to handle Fighter right now, whether that be, like Armor Pen, getting buffed, have their teammates help them, etc., etc. But yeah, so Fighter's just in a pretty awkward spot right now. So I kind of thought I would try to do another guide video just to go back over some of the things that I've mentioned previously, anything that's updated, anything that's better, how I think you should play Fighter right now, because I do think it's a bit different. Honestly, I'm just going to say this flat out right here. I don't recommend playing Fighter right now. Fighter is in an awful spot, and there are many fights. I have been in many fights where Fighter is just not a useful character. You are just a detriment in every way, shape, and form. You just really can't do anything. Your gear needs to be so good also, or you just get ran over by barbarians, which is another class you're supposed to counter, but you don't. Like, how much, let me see, like this set's 60% DR with the shield out. I'm probably around 70. 70% DR is, it sounds like a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you, you'll literally get 4-tapped by a barbarian. Like a geared barbarian with a horseman's axe or even a felling axe, they'll like 4 or 5 tap you max. And if you've been playing and watching a lot of streams, one of the new metas is Warmaul barbarians. Warmaul has a lot of armor pen, so basically this giant number here that's supposed to be really good, make your character really strong, gets cut by like 35%. And when that happens and they're swinging a maul at you, hitting you for like 50, 60 damage a hit at least, this character kind of just melts. So with that being said, let's get right into the character. Perks haven't changed too much. One of the big ones that has changed is Barricade. There was an update a couple patches ago where Barricade used to give you 15% armor rating, or it used to give you 15% defense rating increase, which was just your flat damage reduction. Now it gives you 50 armor rating. This is good at mid-range, so like at somewhere around like the 50% mark and 60% mark is where it starts to fall off. This is pretty good. Even where it gets its most efficiency, it is still worse than what it used to be, because 50% at absolute max on the armor scale curve will only give you 10% DR, and higher than that it's only going to give you around 5%, which obviously is a really big difference in 15%. So really, you probably aren't running Barricade anymore. You can if your gear's pretty bad, but for the most part, it's just not very good, and I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's usable, but not really. It's pretty damn bad. Your other core ones, those haven't changed. Defense Mastery, Swift, always gonna run those. Shield Mastery, still very good. Still most likely a must run as long as you're using Sword and Shield. And then for the last perk, I've been running Projectile Resistance. I think this is really good. Because Rangers are very strong. This just kind of nullifies even more of their damage, more than you already are, because we got that projectile reduction nerf. But this also helps for Wizards. This helps for Magic Missile. It helps for Fireball. It helps for Ice Bolt. Doesn't help for anything else, I don't think. Doesn't block Zap. Doesn't block Chain Lightning, Lightning Strike, any of that. But Fireball, Magic Missile, and Ice Bolt, those are all mitigated by projectile resistance, because those all count as projectiles. Fireball, it doesn't matter as much, because most of the time you're only getting hit by Splash, and this doesn't negate Splash, I don't think. I mean, it might, but I doubt the Splash damage counts as projectile as well. It probably counts as a separate source of damage. And if you're getting direct hit, this might let you live one. It would be close, but for the most part, it's just pretty good. That's one of the problems with Fighter, is Fighter doesn't have very many good perks. Like Weapon Mastery, you're never going to use because you have Crossbow. Slayer, unusable. Dual Wield, unusable. Adrenaline Spike's awful. We just went over Barricade. So really, it comes down to your 3 choices are Projectile Resistance, Combo Attack, and Counter Attack. So here's the problem with combo attack is I don't know if it's bugged or what, but combo attack, it doesn't apply on your first hit, and your second hit will activate it, but it doesn't actually get the damage buff. The damage buff won't apply until your third swing on combo attack. So your first two swings aren't even getting the benefit for it, which I don't actually understand why. It doesn't make any sense. So, and the thing is, a lot of times if you're hitting a character, usually squishies like a ranger for example, your third swing is almost always going to kill them. Almost always. Even without this. So combo attack really isn't that great. It's not doing a whole lot for you unless you're hitting another tanky character. And even if you are hitting another tanky character, let's say you're hitting them for 20 a swing, you're hitting them for 22 from your third hit on. You're doing 2 more damage. Like, that's really not that much of a difference. Then you have counterattack. I actually think this is a good perk. I was using counterattack for a while before I swapped to projectile resistance. The really good part about counterattack is if you're chasing someone down, like ranger, barbarian, anything, like rogue even, and they turn and let's say they throw something at you or they shoot an arrow at you and you block it, you get that 10% movement speed increase, helps you chase them down more effectively. So counterattack's actually pretty solid to run, I think. I think it's pretty good. I think you could easily swap this one for projectile resistance. I think these two are interchangeable, but these other three are pretty much always you're going to want to run them. With sword and shield especially, this didn't, like, none of these get touched. And then for your skills, sprint and second wind, still your best ones. Like, not all these are really bad. Like, adrenaline rush can still be used on like a Slayer meme build, but that's pretty much all. Taunt's not usable. This thing sucks. Victory strike's bad. Breakthrough's bad. Perfect block is useless, and shield slam is just also useless. So these are still pretty much going to be always your skills right here. Like I said, projectile resistance can easily be swapped for counterattack. It's just preference, I guess, really. I use this to try to live a little bit better against rangers and wizards because they are hitting very, very hard right now. And once again, like I said, this is for the sword and shield build, and I'm just going to be honest. While there are fighter players out there that do play two-handed, I do not recommend it. Two-handed fighter is so bad right now. It's in the worst spot it's ever been. Because, obviously, multiple reasons. One, we have our defense nerf, which gives it much harder to reach high PDR numbers. So, for example, let's say I'm using this armor, and let's say I have a two-handed weapon instead of a sword and shield. I'm not going to get my extra armor rating from my shield. I'm only going to be at 60%. And as we went over, if you're at 70%, you can die in like 3 to 4 hits to a barb if they're geared. 60% is just infinitely worse. They are going to literally 2 or 3 tap you. Same with rangers, same with other fighters, really. Two-handed, it is only usable if your gear is so insane that you're pushing like 75-80% without a shield, which is very hard to do. So like I said, I do not really recommend trying two-handed fighter. It's very fun, I will admit, but for trios, it is just not exactly a viable option right now. Very bad. And then other than that, Slayer build, still the same. You can still run it with no gear and do a lot of damage really fast. It's not very good. Oh, excuse me. Oh. It's not very good for high level play, high gear play. You just instantly get melted. You're just a much worse version of a barbarian. And overall, it just doesn't really work well outside of early gear because your damage falls off. You don't scale that well. You have like very low HP pool. Multitude of reasons why it's not that good. Now, on to the bigger topic, I believe, other than this, because this is pretty much just going over what I've already gone over before with like a very slight change to one perk. How to play fighter right now. Because honestly, I could bring a video up of this, but I don't really think I have a good example. Because it's more of like a theory concept thing. Is fighter right now, is even if some, like, obviously I've had plenty of YouTube comments say like, oh, fighter's strong, like you don't know what you're talking about, yada yada, 75% PDR, 85% PDR, whatever. They're stupid. Those people are stupid. Anyone that thinks fighter is strong right now is wrong. This character is so bad. This character is damn near useless in fights. If you play against a team with a wizard, like for example, a comp that's very popular right now is Wizard Barbarian Bard. And what the wizard does is he will chain lightning off of his barbarian who has Iron Will and Bard buffs and a lot of MR stacked. So the barb has like 190 HP and like 70% magic reduction. The wizard will chain lightning off of his barbarian when he runs into the team, and then it goes from the barbarian to the fighter to his entire team. And as a fighter, we naturally take more damage because plate takes more damage from like spells like lightning and fire spells. So even if you build a tiny bit of magic resistance, you're still going to die very fast. And that is just that is a or not mechanic. That is a strategy that fighter has literally zero counterplay to. Like, you can't crossbow the wizard because the barbarian's standing in front of you. You can't run away because the barbarian's faster than you with haste from the wizard. And wizard is a very, very popular character. Even if they don't do that, wizard on its own without a barbarian, like even with a wizard just a fighter, is such a threat to you because of how much damage they can output and how little counterplay you have. The only counterplay a fighter has for a wizard is attempting to use a crossbow to kill them. But the problem with that is one, unless you headshot them, and honestly, even if you do headshot them, you need a lot of damage and a lot of very good gear with a very strong crossbow to actually one-shot them through all of their damage reduction they will have from their just armor, passive shields, whether it be cleric protection, blue pot, bard buffs, whatever. They're usually not getting one-shot. It almost always has to be a headshot to do it, and even then, the really geared wizards will not die to one. So your only play, realistically, is to try to crossbow the wizard enough to threaten him to back out of the fight. And either that, or you have to have a teammate deal with him, whether that be a barbarian or a ranger. You have to have some way to deal with a wizard. But any fight in which the wizard isn't dealt with, fighter cannot play the game. A fireball will kill you. You will die to 2 fireballs without them ever direct hitting you. 2 splash fireballs will kill you. I've had it happen many, many times where I have had a fireball thrown at me, it missed, exploded beside me, and just the splash damage did half my HP bar. Or, like I said, chain lightning literally will hit you for 70% of your HP bar. Nothing you can do. They never even have to hit you. They can chain it off a dead body, chain it off a teammate, chain it off one of your teammates. Whatever they do, if it chains to you, you basically instantly lose the fight. There's just almost no counterplay to that. If they get within range that you can no longer use your crossbow, as a fighter, your fight is almost guaranteed over. And that's just wizards. Another issue, because there are 2 more main issues that stop fighters from being good. The next one is clerics. Clerics are also incredibly strong right now. While we did see the plus all attribute get removed or, nerfed down to only +1, which is a really big nerf and it really, really needed to happen, clerics are still very, very strong with Holy Strike and Judgment. They can just pretty much melt a fighter. You can't dive the cleric at all, even without a wizard. If you try to run at the cleric and they Holy Strike you once and Judgment you will unironically be under 20% of your HP, and then you'll just die to 2 more hits or something. And so you can't dive cleric effectively. And let's say you're just trying to fight the front line, the cleric's constantly Holy Striking you, that's just gonna fuck your health bar up. So each Holy Strike's hitting you for probably 30% if they have decent gear on. So that's, like I said, that's another reason fighter can't be good. And let's be real, wizard and cleric, at least one of those is going to be in almost every single team comp. Some team comps run both of them. It's not that uncommon. So that is 2 of the hardest counters to fighter that are on almost every single team. And the third reason that is not quite as important, but it is still a legitimate concern, is, like I mentioned earlier, Warmaul Barbarians. Warmaul Barbarians have been running rampant, mostly because of legacy gear that had +3 all attributes on it, which allowed them to get a ton of agility. So they were literally swinging warballs with bard buff like they're arming swords. They are swinging them so fast, and because they're cutting through all your armor, they're hitting you for so much. They're killing fighters with 75-80% DR in 3 hits. It's actually disgusting. And then because they have so much HP and they're actually running tankiness, you cannot out damage them. A Warmaul will break the block of a heater shield. I don't know if they have to run smash. I don't actually think they do. But if you block a Warmaul's hit, it will stagger your guard to the point where you can get hit by the second one. And if you do get hit, Warmaul has a 40% slow for 1.5 seconds. So you cannot get away from the next hit. It's just not possible. You are way too slow. It literally makes you slower than they are when they are moving and swinging it. And yeah, those right there are pretty much the 3 biggest issues for fighter in the current meta. Like I've said, fighter as a character isn't bad. 85% DR is still good. You still do good against rangers, and if your gear is really good, you do good against non-Warmaul barbarians. Obviously you lose the magic damage. That's fine, losing the magic damage, because everything needs a counter, and the tanky plate fighter physically makes sense the counter would be magic damage. However, right now it's not even just fighters' issue, it's kind of everyone's issue that wizard just pretty much 2-taps every class in the game that isn't a barbarian, and their only counterplay is a ranger or a fighter crossbowing them or shooting them, or another wizard that's super good. So, but the thing is, fighter's definitely the class that suffers from it the most. We have least like we're one of the slower classes in the game outside of sprint. We don't have that maneuverability to get away from wizard spells. We can't run. We can't really dodge, and we take bonus damage from all their spells. So it's really really hard to effectively deal with them or even just effectively live. So, like I've said, I really don't think you should play fighter. And this is coming. I love fighter. It is my favorite class. I do not want to swap, but at this point, if the next patch doesn't bring pretty big wizard changes, I'm genuinely considering swapping off fighter until there are. Because fighter is just in such a bad state that this character feels horrible to play. And there are already plenty of fighter players that have swapped off. They just don't want to do it. It's just not worth it. It's like you have to do so much on this class for such little reward. And then something else that's kind of like a side note, but this is also another very real concern if you're thinking about getting into fighter. Fighter gear is the most expensive gear in the game. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's very, like, a lot of people play fighter. But any fighter gear you buy, especially like Cuirass's, which is like the chest piece I have on, they are so expensive. A good fighter kit usually runs you like 2 or 3 times the price of a good kit for any other class. And that's just how it is. It's really, really unfortunate. Mainly because fighters need a bunch of really good gear. Like, your gear has to be like high rarity, like these pants or these gloves. Like, you can't just have like random greens with 3 weapon damage on them like a ranger or a rogue can. You have to have really good gear to actually make your stats worth. And you need really good stats. Like, this right here, this is a really good chest piece. This chest piece cost me like 1,000 gold. Like, these gloves right here, which aren't even that good. Actually, no, it's not these. These gloves right here, which are pretty good, or these right here, which are pretty good. These are like 300-400 gold each. And that's not even counting like running like jewelry and stuff. Your jewelry will run you up at least 1,000, 1,500 like on its own. So that's pretty much it for the updated guide. Yeah, I kind of just wanted, because I know I hadn't done one in like a week and a half. And if a new patch comes out, there's a lot of changes. I'll probably make another one. But I think I covered everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I would be happy to try to answer your questions. I mean, it really sucks. I don't like the spot fighters in. Like, like I said, I'm fine if the class is weak. It just, right now, the class is in a spot where it feels like it has damn near no counterplay to so many things in the game. It just feels nearly impossible to play fight. Like, if you run into another geared team that's running like a wizard or a cleric that has a lot of gear, you have to play so carefully. Most of the time in this meta, fighter is relegated to sitting in the back line and using crossbow. That is basically all you can do. I don't actually have one on me. I died right before I made this video. So like I had to put some new gear on. I have to buy a crossbow. But if you have a crossbow, that is basically all you do in a fight is you sit back and you play like a ranger, which is ridiculous. Like the tanky sword and shield armor class should not be playing like a ranger. That should not be what you're forced to do. Also, I guess that's something else that I kind of forgot to go over. So, just like as a normal build for fighter now, my recommendation is the setup you are always going to run. It will be this kind of plate armor, Templar armor or dark plate over fine cuirass if your armor is really, really good. But if not, run fine cuirass. Gives you a lot of extra armor. And then for your weapon setup, it will be arming sword and heater shield. The arming sword is significantly better than the falchion, especially after the falchion's been nerfed twice. This weapon is much faster. It's got longer reach. Believe it or not, it actually does have longer reach. Better swing sets. You have faster recovery after swinging. It's just overall a much better weapon. And then your secondary, which like I said is not here, will be a crossbow. You have to run crossbow. Longbow's not even worth it, because a longbow, your damage is too slow. Like, for example, if you see a wizard around a corner, if you peek that corner and you pull out a longbow, you have to draw the arrow and then shoot it. They have much more time to react to seeing you pull out a longbow and shoot it, rather than just you pull out a crossbow and pop a shot at them instantly. Yeah, then the longbow is more consistent DPS, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for 1 or 2 very powerful hits on key targets, potentially one-shotting them, usually just bringing them very low to then engage in the fight. But yeah, I think that just about covers everything. Stat-wise, doesn't really matter. Strength and agility are both pretty good. I think strength is easier to stat because agility requires a ton of strength as well. Strength does not require a ton of agility. But strength and agility are 2 stat priors you're going for the most. And then for gear, you want something like these right here. Strength, weapon damage, or like damage reduction. I think these gloves are here great. Agility, physical power, movement speed, fantastic stats. So like you see, like mostly I have like either damage stats or damage reduction and armor rating. Armor rating is also very good stats. So yeah, those. So in order, if I was going for priority, Like this right here would be, this right here is like an amazing piece of gear. It has 2 strength, which is exactly the stat you want, and its armor rating. So the stats you want to prioritize is physical damage reduction, armor rating, and then strength or agility. Those are your 4 stats that you're looking for. That's not necessarily in order of importance. Physical damage reduction and armor rating can be interchangeable. It kind of just depends on how much armor you have or how much damage reduction you have. But at very high ranks, generally physical damage reduction will be better. You can put it on like just to tell. Like you see, I have 60% here. Like let's say I was gonna swap from 0.9% to 10 armor rating. You see, 10 armor rating gives me 1.1% more. So at 60%, 10 armor rating is better than 0.9% damage reduction. But yeah, that pretty sure sums up the video. Like I said, if you guys have any comments or anything you'd feel like to add or that I missed, feel free to tell me down below. I'm always happy to talk about it, and if there's something I feel I'm wrong about or you feel I'm wrong about, tell me why you think so, and I will happily comment and disagree. But yeah, until next time, boys. Peace.